She thought you'd chase her, text her, call her, fall apart in front of everyone. She thought breaking up with you would break you. She expected to watch from a distance while you begged for her back. She counted on that meltdown, because that would have made it easy to justify walking away. But you didn't fall, you didn't plead, you didn't even flinch. And now she's not sure what she walked away from, because the moment you stopped caring, she started noticing. Drop "I value my peace" in the comments. Number 1. She waits for the chaos. She's already planned your breakdown before she ends it. She plays the scene in her mind over and over like a script she wants to see performed, where you call, text, beg, and lose your identity right in front of her just to give her a reason to feel powerful about walking away. Because if you lose control, if you explode, if you collapse emotionally, she wins not by logic or love, but by narrative and ego. She gets to walk away telling herself and everyone around her that she left someone who couldn't hold it together. She needs the meltdown to feed the story she's built privately for weeks before the breakup, where she was the victim, the mature one, the rational one who had to make the tough decision, and the only thing that validates all that is your self-destruction. She waits for it in silence while pretending she's at peace, but behind that mask, she's just checking her phone for signs that you still care enough to break. She doesn't want love back. She wants evidence that she mattered enough to wreck you, and the longer you stay composed, the more her doubts grow in secret, because without your emotional mess to point to, she's stuck facing her own accountability. She wanted a reaction because that would have helped her justify her impulsiveness, her guilt, her selfishness, and instead what she finds is a quiet man who refuses to give her a scene, who refuses to hand over his dignity, who refuses to crumble for someone who traded connection for control, and when you don't play the role, she panics in ways she'll never admit, because the absence of reaction forces her to reflect, and there is no easier way for her to escape reflection than by shifting all the blame to you through your emotional unraveling. But when that doesn't happen, the spotlight turns and it hits her decision. It shines on her impatience, her ego, her inability to solve problems like an adult. And now she's stuck spinning, wondering why the explosion never came, wondering why you're not chasing her, wondering if you've already realized your worth and moved forward. And this thought shakes her, because now she doesn't get to be the strong one who moved on. She has to live with the fact that she may have left a man who was just becoming everything she ever wanted, and now she has no access to it anymore. And this haunts her deeper than any closure conversation ever could, because you didn't give her a dramatic ending, just a calm exit. And that's what drives her thoughts at night. That's what rewrites her certainty into confusion. And every man reading this needs to understand that you don't owe her a single emotional display, not a message, not a post, not a tear she can see, because her validation is built on your vulnerability, and if you give it to her, she walks away with all the power and none of the introspection. But when you walk away without a single crack, without making her your god, without lowering your character to match her selfishness, you flip the dynamic and become the reflection she can't run from, because she knows what she did and she knows what she expected. And when you give her none of it, she's left with the full weight of her choice without your drama to soften the blow. And that's where the shift begins. Not with revenge, not with games, not with cryptic online messages, but with a man who chooses peace and self-respect in a world that expects him to break down for attention. And the more you stay in control, the more the illusion she built begins to fall apart, because it depended on your weakness, and you denied her that completely. And now you walk forward not as someone who was left behind, but as someone who was freed from manipulation, from performative pain, from emotional dependence. And this is how you win. Not by getting her back, but by never needing her in the first place to be strong, centered, and unstoppable. And if you've ever wondered how to become that grounded, focused, unshakable version of yourself, the kind of person who never needs to chase or explain or apologize for outgrowing people who couldn't see your worth, the Stoic relationship blueprint was made for you. This isn't just a book. It's a powerful, life-shifting guide packed with timeless principles that train your mind to respond with clarity, not chaos, built for men who are done reacting and ready to lead themselves. And now it's available in audiobook format, so you can listen while walking, jogging, or rebuilding your life in motion. Imagine carrying wisdom in your ears that reshapes the way you think, speak, and move in every relationship, without distraction, without weakness. The link is in the comments. Once it's yours for life. Unlimited access to the kind of mental clarity most people spend years searching for. Number 2. Your silence confuses her. She doesn't understand why you haven't texted yet, why you're not chasing, why you're not falling into the patterns she thought were guaranteed. And every second you don't act, her expectations collapse one by one, because she crafted an entire breakup story in her head, where you fell apart and she rose above it, where your reaction gave her justification, where her impulsive decision to leave you looked wise, because you would act exactly like the image she already convinced herself you were, the man who couldn't let go, the man who lacked control. But when you sit still, when you don't flinch, when you continue your life without publicly responding, without spiraling, without making her the center of your universe, her entire belief system shakes because it tells her one thing she can't stomach. She might not matter to you the way she thought, and now she starts observing you, not with love but with discomfort, because your behavior is unrecognizable. And when she can't predict your next move, she starts to fear it. She starts wondering if you were stronger than she ever gave you credit for, if your stillness isn't weakness but strength, if your distance isn't pain but progress. And in her confusion, she scrolls through your old texts, rereads conversations trying to remember the last time you seemed broken, and the silence starts screaming, not in volume, but in weight, because now it represents everything she wasn't ready for. Discipline, restraint, power, and that shakes the narrative she fed to her circle, that she left someone who was emotionally immature or lost, because now you don't look like the man she described. Now you look like someone who's moving with intention, someone who's focused, someone who's not reaching backward for something that no longer exists, and that frightens her because people only get curious when things stop making sense. And you've become the one thing that keeps her checking without ever having to post anything. And now she feels exposed. She thought the silence meant weakness, but it revealed hers because she can't let go of someone who already did. And she begins to project, maybe saying you're cold, or distant, or heartless to mutuals. Not because it's true, but because it helps her cope with the idea that the one she thought would fall apart didn't even blink. And that realization forces her to look at herself not as a strong person who made a clean break, but someone who walked away from peace, from presence, from stability, and that regret brews silently in her chest because she knows she expected you to chase, to text at night, to make her feel wanted again, even if just a little, even if for ego, even if for validation. And now you've shown her what actual detachment looks like. Not the pretend kind she posts about, but the kind that doesn't watch, doesn't wait, doesn't circle back. And this detachment isn't numbness. It's clarity. It's not indifference. It's understanding that someone who chooses to leave does not deserve your collapse. It's living by the truth that peace is earned, not owed, and you earn it when you stop allowing other people's chaos to rewrite your character, when you hold firm in the face of emotional manipulation, when you master your mind not by suppressing emotion, but by processing it in silence, through movement, through building, through doing the next right thing without needing to be seen doing it. And she can't wrap her head around that because in her world, silence equals punishment or confusion, But in your world, silence equals presence and growth. And the more you stay that course, the more you become unreachable. Not because you blocked her, but because you've elevated to a level where her games don't apply. And now she feels it every time she opens her phone and sees your profile not updated for attention, but left alone because you're too busy creating to perform. And the truth she avoids is that this kind of self-control is rare, especially in a time where men are told that emotions equal love and that reactions equal meaning. But now you understand that real value doesn't come from how loud you respond, but how consistently you move forward without being shaken. And that's what makes you dangerous. Not to her, but to every lie she told herself about what you'd do when she left. And now your absence is not empty space. It's proof that you no longer need her presence to validate your direction. And once you reach that space mentally, you become something she can't define, can't predict, and can't forget. And that's where the confusion becomes obsession. Not because you did anything cruel, but because you did the one thing she didn't expect. You became stable without her, and now she's left watching a version of you she never imagined could exist, because she never believed you had it in you, and that disbelief is her burden now, not yours. Number 3. She starts remembering the good. Memories begin to change shape when there's no fresh chaos to overwrite them. Because once you remove your emotional reaction from her life, the last thing she holds on to is the version of you from before it all fell apart. And that version isn't defined by begging or breakdowns. It's defined by presence, reliability, and all the silent things you did that made her feel grounded even when she took them for granted. And now that you're no longer showing up in her notifications, her mind starts to wander. But this time it doesn't land on your flaws, because those have nothing to bounce off of anymore. Now the silence turns every previous complaint into a question. Was he really the problem, or was I impatient? Was he distant, or was I difficult? And now she replays everything because your absence creates room for reflection she never had to do when she was watching your pain on full display. But now that pain is private, now it's focused, now you're building in silence, and she doesn't get to be part of that growth, so her memory slowly filters out the noise, and she starts to recall the little things, not the dramatic arguments, but the way you stayed up when she couldn't sleep, the way you gave even when you were empty, the way you made plans while she made demands. And these memories sting now because they're safe to feel when you're no longer there to correct the record. And every time she thinks about the fact that you haven't called, haven't messaged, haven't posted something sad, the weight of those good moments hit harder, because now she realizes they were never for show. They were who you are at your core, and she begins to crave a version of you. She knows she can't reach anymore, not because you hate her, but because you no longer live for her attention. And that shift replays itself every time she opens a message thread and sees nothing new, or every time a song plays that used to belong to a moment you created. And without your voice in her life, those moments become louder, and no amount of distractions can mute what she used to have, especially now that she knows you're not trying to force those memories back into her life. You're just letting them speak for themselves in your absence. And that's the part that keeps her awake at night, not what you're saying but what you're not, because she remembers the patience, the jokes, the way you studied her moods and gave her space without asking for anything in return. And she remembers it now because your silence strips away all her defenses, and with those defenses gone, she starts to feel what you felt when you were trying to hold everything together while she tested your limits. Because now she understands that the good wasn't a phase, it was the baseline, and now that she can't access it, she finally respects it. And this shift is internal, it's unspoken, and she can't share it with anyone because it's wrapped in regret, a silent regret that grows louder with every post you don't make, and every time you're seen doing better by those who still keep her in the loop, because now it's not just the good she remembers, it's the fact that she never gave it back, and that makes her question her own capacity to love, not just you, but anyone. Because if she could walk away from someone that real without a second thought, what does that say about how she sees connection? What does that say about how she handles discomfort? And now she's stuck with those questions while you're moving on, while you're improving, while you're glowing differently, because your life no longer revolves around proving anything to someone who couldn't recognize your value until it was gone. And this is the part she never saw coming, the realization that you didn't just survive the breakup, you evolved. And now the person she left is not the one that exists anymore, because that man was forged through quiet suffering and rebuilt through intentional solitude. And now you're untouchable, not because you're unavailable, but because you've grown so far past needing her approval that her name barely registers when your phone lights up, and that distance is what creates the gap she never expected to feel. The emotional gap between who she thought you were and who you've become. And every time she remembers the good, she's not remembering it from a place of love, but from a place of loss. And the irony is, she was the one who initiated the distance, thinking it would empower her. But instead it gave you clarity, and now she's living with the emotional residue of the good things she once overlooked, trying to find that same presence in new people, but never quite finding the peace you brought, because the peace didn't come from what you said. It came from how you moved, from how you handled stress, from how you didn't try to control her, but simply gave her the space to be herself, even when it cost you. And now she's feeling the cost, not in anger, but in emptiness, because the space you used to fill is now echoing with her choices, and all the reasons she used to justify leaving you look smaller in the rear view of time, because when she told her friends you were too quiet, now she sees that quiet was discipline when she said you weren't romantic enough. Now she sees it was stability over flash when she called you boring. Now she realizes boring was just safety and routine from a man who wasn't performing but providing. And those memories cut deep now because they were real, and what she's chasing now is often fake. And the more she compares, the more the good grows in her mind, not because you're romanticizing the past, but because she's finally seeing the truth without your reaction getting in the way. And the longer you stay gone, the more she realizes that love isn't about passion in the moment. It's about consistency, loyalty, peace, and a man who was always present even when he was being pushed away. And now that you're not there to push, she stands still, alone with the memories of the good you gave without asking for applause. And this is the moment she starts to understand that what she had was rare, and what she gave up can't be remade, not because she's unworthy of love, but because your kind of love doesn't scream. It stays silent, and now that it's gone, she hears it everywhere. Number 4, she questions her decision. Nothing shakes someone's certainty like the absence of evidence they expected to find. And now, as days stretch into weeks without your collapse, she sits quietly with a decision she once celebrated out loud, but slowly begins to regret in silence, because while it's easy to act bold when people are clapping and telling you that you did the right thing, it's much harder when the noise dies down and the only voice left is your own whispering doubts that creep in during still moments. And now those doubts are louder than ever, because your restraint has denied her the emotional chaos she needed to stay confident in her choice. And as she watches you grow in silence, not perform, but transform, she starts to feel the cracks in her logic, and the truth begins to burn in places she tried to ignore, because it's easier to blame someone else than it is to admit you misread the entire situation and walked away from something you didn't even understand yet. And now those quiet moments she called peace start to feel like loneliness. Not because she misses attention, but because she knows deep down she traded real connection for surface-level validation. And the longer you stay still, the more she turns inward, and that inward spiral forces her to face a reality she was trying to outrun. that maybe she was never ready for what you offered. Maybe the real reason she left was because she couldn't handle being with someone who saw through her and loved her anyway. Someone who stayed consistent even when she tested everything you stood for. And now that consistency is gone. She's left with the consequences of choosing herself without ever understanding who she was. And now, your silence doesn't just confuse her, it convicts her because it proves you were not the one lacking clarity. And that's a bitter truth to hold, because it means she has to admit that the problem was never your love. It was her ability to receive it without self-sabotage. And this is where she breaks in ways that no one can see from the outside, because it's not about being sad. It's about realizing you played the whole thing wrong and can't go back. And every time she sees you show up in the world stronger, clearer, more focused, she wonders what she gave up and why she didn't fight harder to understand what she had. And the irony is brutal, because she thought walking away was strength, but now realizes staying would have required more courage than she had at the time. And now your growth shines a light on every insecurity she tried to hide by leaving. And it gets worse when people around her start noticing that you've changed in ways she once prayed for. And now those prayers feel like punishments, because they came true the moment she walked away, and she has to live with the reality that your evolution happened without her, not in spite of her, but entirely separate from her existence. And that separation is devastating, because it proves you never needed her to become who you were meant to be. And now every win you achieve, every picture you take, every moment you share without her becomes a reminder of what she gave up without thinking twice. And this is where the regret begins, not in dramatic outbursts or messages, but in the subtle shifts of how she sees herself. Because now the old stories don't work anymore. She can't tell herself you were emotionally unavailable or immature or controlling, because your life now is a contradiction to every label she gave you. And that contradiction is eating away at her self-image, because it reveals how much of her version of the breakup was projection. And now she has to live with the knowledge that she wasn't the victim. She was the one who gave up too early, too easily, and for all the wrong reasons. And what makes it worse is knowing that even if she wanted to return, she wouldn't be coming back to the same man she left, because that man has changed, and the new one doesn't look back. He doesn't entertain what once disrespected his value, and she knows it. She can feel that distance growing wider, not just physically, but mentally, because she's no longer relevant to your journey. And that's the hardest part, not being blocked or ignored, but being irrelevant to someone who once centered you in their world and now builds worlds without you. And every time she sees your name, every time someone brings you up, she smiles on the outside but breaks internally, because the moment she starts to remember you, she can't escape what she's lost, and she can't fix it, because the man she remembers doesn't exist anymore. He was shaped by the pain she caused, and that man used her rejection as fuel, not to get revenge, but to evolve. And she's left behind not as a villain, but as a turning point in your story. And that realization haunts her, because she sees now that she was never the one who needed to leave. You were the one who needed space to grow, and she just happened to create it, thinking she was in control. And now that control has turned to regret, because she can't undo what's done, she can't unfeel what she feels, she can't replace what she lost. And now her life becomes a search for pieces of you, in people who haven't lived your pain and haven't earned your peace. And every connection she tries to form feels hollow, not because those people are bad, but because they're not you. And she knows it, and she carries that truth silently while you walk with purpose and presence, because your journey no longer includes her, not out of anger, but out of alignment, because her actions removed her from the path you're now walking. And the only thing she can do is watch and wonder what would have happened if she had just waited a little longer, been a little more patient, communicated instead of complaining, supported instead of shaming, stayed instead of running. But now it's too late. And the new version of you has no interest in being understood by someone who only valued you when you were easy to leave. And that's the cost of her decision, not just losing you, but losing access to the place in your life she once called home. Number 5. She starts watching you. Every day that passes without a reaction from you adds a new layer of mystery in her mind, because what confuses her the most is not that you disappeared, but that you did it without looking back, and now she watches, not because she cares, but because she needs answers that you refuse to give her. And that lack of closure drives her into obsession. Not because you are playing games, but because you stopped playing entirely, and the very silence that once made her feel superior now leaves her unsettled because it exposes her as the only one still emotionally engaged in a connection she voluntarily walked away from, and now she can't help but look for clues to understand your absence, hoping for a signal that she still matters, but all she sees is your life unfolding without her, your energy invested elsewhere, your presence pulled from her world and redirected into something she no longer gets access to. And the part that disturbs her isn't that you're fine, it's that you're thriving, and not just outwardly, but internally, because the version of you she left behind no longer exists, and the one that replaced him no longer sees her as significant. And now she's scrolling through your profiles, checking your activity, wondering why your name hasn't popped up. And every lack of presence from you on her page cuts deeper than any insult ever could, because it proves she's been removed from your priority list completely. And that kind of detachment is rare, and she knows it. And now she's watching the person she never expected to change suddenly become the version she thought you never could. And the reality that you didn't need her to level up rewrites every conclusion she drew about why she left. And that rewriting process creates discomfort because it forces her to look at her choice from a place of honesty she's never had to face. And every time she sees you smiling, building, elevating, she tries to convince herself that it's temporary, that it's performative, but deep down she knows it's not, because no one can fake peace like that. And the reason she knows it's real is because of how effortlessly you've maintained it while she's still in conflict with herself. Because while she left you to find clarity, all she found was noise, and while you lost her, you found direction, and now she watches like someone trying to remember a language they used to speak, but can no longer understand, because everything about you feels different, not because you've changed who you are, but because you've become who you were always meant to be, and she's no longer part of that story. And that realization plays on a loop every time she sees your name in someone's mouth, your success in someone's feed, your energy in places she no longer occupies. And what eats at her is that you're not trying to be seen, you're just focused. And that focus makes you magnetic. And now she observes you the same way people observe art that they never appreciated until someone else put a price on it. And now she measures you against every new person she meets, and nothing ever feels right, not because they're not good people, but because they don't hold the same space you did. And the irony is, she told herself that leaving you would create space for better. But now that space is just a void, and your absence becomes the standard, and your energy becomes the benchmark. And the more she watches, the more she realizes she doesn't know this new you. And it terrifies her because it means she's irrelevant to your transformation. And that's the deepest wound, not losing you, but being left out of your becoming. And now she starts to ask around, not out of care, but curiosity, hoping for a mention, hoping someone says you're asking about her, but no one does because you're too focused, and that lack of interest breaks her in places you'll never see. And now she watches everything you do, trying to find cracks in the armor, but all she sees is consistency. And that consistency makes her question if she ever really knew you, or if she just misunderstood what real strength looked like, because in her world, strength looked like detachment, But in your world, strength looks like discipline, and the fact that you didn't respond, that you didn't try to fix what broke, tells her more about your character than anything you could have said, and now she can't help but watch. Because in watching, she tries to rewrite the story, but the story is no longer hers to tell, and she feels that loss every time she logs in, because you've become a reference point, a lesson in what happens when someone chooses growth over validation. And now her watching isn't just curiosity, it's study, it's obsession, it's confusion wrapped in respect. And she might not ever admit it, but the man she thought would crumble has now become the man she needs to learn from, and that truth humbles her because no one ever taught her what it means to walk away from something before it's finished, and now she sees the results of what she abandoned, and those results stare back at her in silence, in strength, in direction, and now she's forced to accept that watching is all she has left, and that watching isn't access, it's absence dressed up as relevance, and the more she sees, the more she regrets. But that regret comes with no reward, because you're not a man who circles back. You're a man who keeps building, and now she's stuck on the outside, not because you rejected her, but because she disqualified herself from your future, and now that future is unfolding without her, and all she can do is watch. They don't want you to have this knowledge, because a man who thinks clearly, walks away in silence, and never begs again, is a man no one can control. Society fears the kind of strength that comes from emotional discipline, from inner clarity, from knowing your worth so deeply that you never need to prove it. That's why the Stoic relationship blueprint isn't just a book. It's a threat to the systems that taught you weakness. It's filled with timeless Stoic principles that will immediately shift how you see women, breakups, and most importantly, yourself. And now it's available in audiobook form, so you can carry this power with you while walking, lifting, healing, building. The link is in the comments. Own it once, access it forever. If you're ready to stop chasing and start leading, drop "No More Chaos" in the comments, hit like, and subscribe so more men like you can escape the lies and save themselves years of regret.